name is Mary Jane James. I'm from Repton, Dubai. I, like many of you, do two jobs. I'm head of maths throughout the whole of the junior school, and I'm also a year 2 teacher. This is Douglas Russell, who works with me, and he's our IT specialist. The aim of our presentation is to teach you, or to show you, how we use technology to improve maths, learning maths. Now, I don't think we're going to show you anything amazing or new. What we're hoping to do is refresh your ideas and excite you and think, oh yes, that's fantastic, let's go back in the classroom and do that. I've been to a couple of fantastic presentations this morning, and that's exactly how I feel about the ideas I've been watching. It says early years, just to inform you, we have been informed by what works. This is from reception to year 4, so I apologise if you're here for early years only, but we've been asked to show you up to year 4. This is not going to show you some massive, whizzy technology that many of us don't have already. This is to show you how we utilise the technology which is within all our budgets in our classrooms every day, in every part of the lesson, be it the start, mental warm-up, be it in the main focus, plenary, extension work, whatever, one-to-one support. Again, this is what we have available to us on an everyday basis. Now, some of you may have had this, and others of you will have different forms of this. iPads, DigiBlues and ToughCams, Bebots, interactive boards. We have ones called Interwrite. We also have just introduced Polyvision to a couple of rooms, hopefully more. And the main software we use is Easy Teach and Education City. Now, many of you might have Promethean boards. Afraid you're not going to get pod envy by watching our presentation today.
Just so you can see at the bottom, we've put any quality indicators that we think relate to some of the things to do with technology and mathematics in the school. Obviously, the latest device that I think most people have, and indeed when we go into classrooms and we start introducing the iPads, the better question to ask the children isn't who does have one, but rather who doesn't have one, and you will actually get very few hands up. They are fantastic devices. I know one of the previous sessions I was in, they said get the iPads put down, because the iPads are constantly in the children's hands, and they're not just for games. There are loads and loads of apps available. We'll go over some of the ones we use at Repton, and I'm sure you've got loads of ideas yourself. We'd love to hear some of the apps that you guys are using as well. You can use an iPad in any part of a maths lesson. We structure our lessons according to the British curriculum and the way that we're trained. Mental warm-ups, children can record investigations throughout a lesson. You can do extension work at the end for children who are finishing early. Plenaries at the end of the lesson, you can get children up who maybe throughout the lesson you've identified as struggling, and check by the end of the lesson, has this child understood the concept that's being taught in the lesson? Can they add these numbers? Can they show me to sequence numbers? And especially one-to-one work with special education needs, gifted and talented students. Obviously working at an early years level, you're not really going to go down much. There's not much that comes before counting to 5 or identifying them. However, you've got gifted and talented students in your early years and in years 2 and 3 who maybe are working at a much higher level that need to start looking at fractions and decimals and things like that. And there's loads of apps available again for that. Now, I've got a video here. Do you want to check it? No, it's not going to here. Here's an example of how we're using iPads in the whole class for a mental warm-up. So you just get... This will be...
This morning we're going to do a nice warm-up using the Speedo Maths app on the iPad here. So what was the code we're going to use, the password? 1122. So when you've got your iPad, you're going to go to the seat and load up and Speedo Maths app, and we're going to do a nice warm-up exercise. Are you all ready?
Yes.
This is actually one of our lower math sets, even for year 3. We set the children according to their abilities. This is a lower set group, so there's much lower child to teacher ratio here. There's only 12 children in the class. And you'll see the engagement levels. That's very good for engagement.
For you. Very good. Go run with them. Are you clear? Right there. That's the money. There we are. Speedo mapped up.
So you can see, I mean, they've all gone straight to their desk. There's no technical teaching required. Like I said, they've all got iPads. They're all using them at home. I've got teachers down in the early years department who are saying that children are going up to the computers. They have an old class desktop and they're going up trying to swipe the screen. You know, and of course, you know, everybody teacher-wise is just looking there and laughing, thinking, what are you doing? But to them, that's natural. That is what you do when you have one of those screens put in front of you, whether it be the way it works or not. And so they're all instantly engaged. You don't need to teach them how to use the iPad. They're generally already well aware of how to use it. I think on our next slide, we've got some measurement and a measure hunt.
This is what I did with my year 2s on an investigation, and they love, of course, what does IT do in the classroom? It stimulates the children, it excites them, they become naturally excited that they're going to be involved in using something to do with IT. So I set them off on an investigation and they were going on a measure hunt around the school. They were pirates, and with their team they had an iPad and they had to go and record evidence of what they found on their challenge, which was to find 5 objects which must be longer than 2 meters but shorter than 4 meters. And these are pictures. Now, I would show you the videos, but the children took them themselves and they held the iPad upside down. But is that wrong? No, we had huge fun looking at this in the classroom and they all turned their heads upside down. So next time they're using the iPads to record the investigation in this class, they are going to be thinking very carefully about what way to hold the iPad. They were then able to go into the classroom, show that what objects they had found using real life objects, and then asking the children in the classroom, could we put the bin in our treasure chest? And it was able for them to explain why they had taken that photograph or why they'd taken that film. And then we pressed play and they were said, we can't put this in our treasure chest because it is shorter than 2 meters. And it was just a lovely way for them to engage with the rest of the class themselves, again, with just us being the facilitators, with standing back and maybe giving probing advice of questions of what would you do now or what would you like to tell the class now.
Anyone who's looking at digital evidence, I know a lot of schools are starting to do digital portfolios where children might have documents that they've got on computers and so forth, and again, video clips and photos. The children are able to actually do that themselves, upload it. I know there's other schools in Dubai where children are recording their science experiments. It's a very cross-curricular tool as well, which relates to one of the sessions I've just been in myself. Hopefully you're also seeing how maths, as well as in the different parts of the lesson, you'll see that it covers all the different strands of mathematics. So we've seen problem solving and investigating there, and then we've seen addition and calculation with the Speedo Math app. Here are some of the apps that we have on our iPads. Bugs and Buttons is one of our favourites for our early years department. The little 3 and 4-year-olds, they love that one. Speedo Math, the top one there, that was in the video. It does all 4 calculations: addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. easiest level is basic single digit. It gets to a difficulty level where you're doing numbers in the 20s multiplied by each other. So when my lower set maths class decided that they were super smart and could do difficult, and they saw 25 times 23, they had a little bit of a freak out and decided to go down a level. So again, you can get the children to actually self-assess and start thinking, what level am I at? And they can see where they need to go to. Those children can instantly say, I can't do this yet, but I know because it's in this app, it's related to the stage before that. So that was very useful as well.
I'd like to just point out that, math is obviously an American term, and I have typed maths is fun out of just natural typing. I'm not very good at typing the math. So it is actually math is fun, not maths is fun.
Now, moving on to one of our other tools. We've got them all here if you're wanting to come and have a look afterwards. This one here I've used myself in the UK. It's called a DigiBlue. We have a basically identical device which is a bit more recent called a ToughCam. The ToughCam has a much bigger screen on it. So again, better for your early years groups. This one may be better for your mid to late primary as you have to actually look through the viewfinder and so forth. Both of them have got docking stations that plug in and CDs with the software. And again, it's about using video tools. Here I've got some children who are doing some problem solving. And what they're actually doing is they're filming the corner of a shape. We have a video of this one, don't we?
Yeah.
Here's the corner of my shape. What shape did I pick? This is the side of my shape. What shape did I choose?
So just a simple thing like that, they've rehearsed it, they've chosen their shape. They would then need to go to the IT lab, or if you've got classroom computers, use the docking station, upload that, and at that point the children can actually come up to the front of the class, load their video up even on an interactive whiteboard, which obviously again is another interactive ICT-based tool we'll talk about later, and they can come up and teach, and children love to teach. They're learners, but they love to get up and say, right, this is what I've done, and they love it even more so when they know what shape they chose because they filmed it and all of their friends are sitting there going, oh, is it a square, is it a triangle? And again, you can go into that problem solving of, well, how do you know it's a square? They're looking at the corner, it's a right angle corner, and they're using all that vocabulary that as maths teachers we want them to use and to be making sure they're familiar with.
Right, we also use IT as a good parent-school links. Now, we've spoken in this other presentation today, spoken about maths whiz, mathletics, and all those webs that you can use. We recommend them. We ask the parents to do that. We will support the parents, but we're not actually linked in with those at the moment. We have found these because we found it helpful to incorporate the parents in their own child's learning. This we do through two ways. I've had a child in my class who had behavioural issues and needed extra support, and it was hard for the parents to understand this when they don't see them in a classroom environment. They don't see them surrounded by 20 other children, and lots of lovely concrete materials that we've put on the table, which they're building into a rocket when you've asked them to do advise them, maybe they should have another look at them. I wanted to show these parents. Now, obviously you need permission from the parents, and obviously you try and put this video of this child in isolation, so you're not filming any other children in. But it's interesting, this parent turned to me and said, thank you. Thank you for showing me how my child is. I now understand everything that you've been trying to explain to me. Now I have visually been able to see it. Yes, I want to support you. Let's help my little girl. And it was lovely. And then we were able to carry on doing this and show the parents the progress she was making within the classroom with that extra support that we were then able to give her. And that's really encouraging for everyone. we also do something. I have parents coming in saying, "Oh, there's no work in the books," or "Oh, we can't see much evidence at the moment." And I said, "Well, that's because we love practical activities. Children learn through their own learning in the environment, and that's something we really promote at Repton." So I always say, let's get that video evidence. Let's record them. Let's take the photographs, and then we can show the parents exactly what their children have been doing. They can hear the language that we've been using while we're communicating with them, while the children are learning. And it's been really, the parents have really appreciated it when we've done our curriculum meetings, to actually see examples of how we are talking to the children, the questions that we're asking them, to how they're going to think about the next step. Because it's all very easy for us trained to say, just keep asking them questions. And they look at you and think, I don't know what to ask. Is it a square? And you're wanting to say, no, it has 4 corners and they're right angles. And they say, oh, it's so helpful. It's a way of us to help the parents help us. Bebots, this is our next one that we use. This is obviously lower down, early years, year 1 and year 2. It's really very good for problem solving, position and direction. Now, I love these, and you can do a whole heaps of it. You involve them in lots of different ways. This little chap here, we made a little bebop town, and I said to him, this bebop wanted to go and visit his friend for a play date, but we have to give him precise instructions. Now, these children use bebots very regularly, so they know how to work them. But you'll see in this video that I'm going to show you in a minute, he doesn't get it quite right. And that's, again, fantastic. We don't want them, again, I've heard this in another presentation today, we don't want them to get it right all the time, because it gives us that opportunity to say, why did the bebop go in the wrong way? What did we not do? It makes them have to think about what they've done and what they might need to do differently. Again, it's helping them to learn. Now, they're slightly older technology, and many of you might have roamers in your cupboards, which are the step before this. They're still fantastic, just because it's old and it's not up to date. Use them, they're still brilliant, they do the same job. Right, I'll just show you how we were able to guide this little chap.
If you're looking to buy any of these, you might not have to look in the maths section of a catalogue. If it's divided by subject, you may find it in the ICT section.
Right, so I would say what he hadn't done was press the clear button. So the bebop was still responding to the previous instructions he had given it. So I was able to say, but it didn't do the right thing, why not? And he had to think about it, and he had enormous fun. And well, I really enjoy watching children learning, so we had great fun together. So I just minimize this. Very good I'm doing this presentation. You see, I'm not the most technical. So, and I use technical things in my classroom all the time. So it is showing you it is very easy to do if you practice it. Interactive whiteboards. Now, majority of us are lucky enough to have them. And as I say, I'm afraid you're going to get no pod envy from us today. We don't have Promethean boards. So we get what we're given in our schools. Now, we have boards called interactive whiteboards. And they're great. They're great. They work, the children can be interactive, they can collaborate in their own learning, and it keeps everyone fully involved the whole way through. Though we use them in the main warm-ups, in the main teaching focus, we use it as plenaries, we use them everywhere. But this one is really, we can use it, it's got to be effective in your planning. It shows how you can be effective in your planning, and it gets a collaboration. Now, we use them in support. It's important that you don't just use your interactive whiteboard, because otherwise you're in danger of what I call the carpet pickers. The ones who are losing focus and they're picking up every little speck off the carpet. It's important that you give them those real objects as well. When we're talking about time, that they should have all little clocks, or whiteboards, and with clock faces on, so they can all be involved in the learning, in the whatever you've asked them to do. And then you're obviously just choosing a few to come up and have a go on the whiteboard, which is what they all want to do. So it's a very good motivation. Show me how hard you're concentrating, and I can come and ask you to come and help me on the board. This is a lovely one, the measurement with the rulers. It's worth looking at your whiteboards and making sure that you know exactly how they work, because you don't have to be involved in this at all. You ask the children to come and draw a line which they're estimating to be so many centimetres, and then they can measure it. The next child can come and measure it with a ruler and see if they're right. Again, I am just a facilitator in that classroom. I am doing very little. They're working together with very little help from me. Obviously, you can then extend them saying, oh, I wonder if it's slightly older children and going to year 5, you're going into angles. And then you can get a projector and you can start asking them to draw angles. And it's just another way of getting them to, helping them to learn. Now, this is some seasonal activities I've shown you. I find them very good for explaining independent activities. I can scan any piece of work that we might be doing as an independent activity, put it on the board, and we can do the examples together. They can, for those visual learners, they can see exactly what you're asking them to do. You can get 2 children up that you think might not be so sure. Can they do the first 2 questions? Can we do them all together? And then, of course, assessment for learning. You can do however you do it. I might do a quick one, a thumbs up, like this, thumbs down. If they give me thumbs up, they can go and get on with their independent work. If they're not so sure, stay with me on the carpet. Let's carry on the whiteboard, working all together. And again, it keeps them motivated because they want to have that go on the whiteboard. They really enjoy it. And when they feel ready, they can go off and carry on their independent work. It's making us aware, and it's making us use our knowledge of our children's weaknesses and strengths. Easy Teach is, now we're going on to software. So we told you about the hardware we have and we use. Now we're on the software. Now we use Easy Teach. It's a really basic form. Now, in primary school, obviously they're not all the people that teach maths are IT geniuses, mathematicians, whatever. They are lovely primary school teachers who know how to relate to children, who can help children learn. Easy Teach is really straightforward. So I think it's particularly good for number work, sequencing, measurement, shape and space, time, British money, and I'll come on to that, and word problems. You can prepare slides in advance. You can, so these are ones that we prepared, but using photographs of the children or for number work, we were doing a lesson in ordering. So the learning objective you can see is to order 3-digit numbers correctly from the largest to the smallest. And we had I'd done a practical activity with a group of children outside, holding numbers. So they had ordered themselves. I'd taken photographs of them and put it onto the Easy Teach so the other children then could have a go of either ordering it on their whiteboards, or you chose a few ones to come and put the next number in sequence. Then the next page on this prepared one is that the children were in the right order, how they'd organise them outside. This again gives the children their own assessment for learning. Did we get it right? And the children will then explain. There's slides in between of the children trying to sort themselves out and someone's not in the right place. And so again, they were saying, they were able to teach class saying, well, we got in a bit of a muddle. Can you see why we got in a muddle? Have we corrected ourselves now? British money is very difficult in international schools. Many of us who teach the British curriculum have to teach British money, and many of our children will never have to use it properly in their lives. But it is on the British national curriculum, so if we study it, we have to use it. We have to teach the children to recognise the different coins and work with it. Easy Teach, in my opinion, is one of the best software for British money. It shows very clear pictures of the coins. And they literally just drag them up from the toolbar that you can have at the bottom. And you can do everything with them. You can this happened to be an extension work. So this child had finished his work, and I'd asked him to just go on the board. We got a few pens in the classroom. Other children joined him. How many ways could they make 15p using the different coins from the bottom? They never run out. It's an endless supply at the bottom, so that they could carry on and working. It was just a very nice little extension, and I knew they weren't going to have a long time for it. Time, again, word problems, all ways that the children could just move and they use it, and all the clocks, they can move the analogues to the digital, the word problems. Alex had 15 cars, and he gave Tom to 6. He gave 6 to Tom, sorry. They can physically move the cars from Alex to Tom. And when they're physically seeing that happen, you can do it with real cars. But when you're getting into year 2 and year 3, we don't have all those wonderful early years resources. So we're having to do it through picture aids. But it's wonderful. They then understand it. Ah, I see. It's take away. It's subtract. He's losing 6 cars.
Okay, another one of the pieces of software that we've recently purchased is Education City. It's a British-based piece of software, so it definitely suits British curriculum schools. But it's literally literacy, maths, science, and then you've got options of French, German, and Spanish. And I mean, I've worked with 3 different curriculums in my career. And to be honest, they're not that much different. What a 7-year-old is doing in New Zealand is very similar to what a 7-year-old is going to be doing in the UK, which again is similar to what a 7-year-old might do in an international school like ours. 2 other ones that I know of that are similar. One is Espresso, which you may know about. It's quite good. It has lots of videos on history topics and things like this, and worksheets. Another one is, I think it's called Pearson Education or Pearson something. And that one's also very good. Teachers will have their own login and they can save the worksheets that they've found. You have thousands upon thousands of worksheets, and you can actually choose one and save it sort of in your own little folder. So when you log on, you're not having to search again for that one. We've recently purchased Education City. It was the one our staff gave us feedback that they were most interested in. Again, you can use it in warm-ups, main focus, and plenaries. It can be used to support your special needs, your GNT, your EAL, English as Second Language learners. We've got a couple of videos of different ways of using it. Do the whole class. So this is Education City being used as a whole
shows
class.
how many ribbons were won by each farm. How can we tell how many each farm won? All I see are bars. That's why it's called a bar graph. Just by looking at this bar graph, we can see which farm won the most ribbons and which one won the least. What are the numbers for? This is the graph scale. This label tells us that the numbers mean the number of ribbons won. Did you notice that the scale goes up in 2s? The label at the bottom.
What do you notice about the children in that video? They're watching it. I'm not an advocate for using an interactive whiteboard all the time. I do believe that children are watching enough TV screens and everyone is getting glasses these days. But the one thing is Education City, it uses the vocabulary that is key to the subject and topic, and the children are listening. And like Mary Jane said, you've not really got carpet pickers because they tend to, they see you every day. They don't see those characters every day. Here is an example of a special needs student that we have who is just behind in his education. He's just missed some things. He's not picking things up as quickly as his peers. And he has a one-to-one assistant. He's had an educational psychology report. And one of the things that the teacher has organised is a computer in the classroom. Hopefully you have some of those individually that aren't necessarily the teacher's computer attached to the one. Well, you can see here we have a video of him on an activity. So rather than a video, like the previous one, which is good for whole class, this is an activity or a game that he's going to play in regards to counting or sequencing.
Okay, so read the question and answer by clicking on the snowball and click on done. Okay. What number comes before 11? So that's one less. Good boy. Well done. So what's one less than 11? 10. Brilliant. Well done. Oh, hold on. What number comes before 6? That's one less than 6. One less than 6.
So again, he has the biggest smile on his face, and I know that's one of the best things that you can have as a teacher, is watching a child enjoying coming to school and learning. So individual gameplay for the special needs students, you can link that to an individual education plan, and you can directly say his target is to be able to score 100% on this Education City game, that sort of thing. You can really link these sorts of things up well. Another great function of Education City is homework setting. So here we've got homework for one particular individual student. You can do it on a whole class level. You can see 3 games here, 2 maths and 1 literacy. Key Stage 2 gives you the year group. You can get information on the objectives that covers. You can set it. The children will go home. As long as they've got internet access at home, you give them their login. They do it at home. When they've done it, the teacher will get a note saying, a class list, these children have completed the homework. This is the score the children got. There's your assessment done on that objective. Print it out, put it in your assessment folder. These kids have got it. You've got 6 children that maybe haven't. They need to have a small group session with an assistant or yourself the next day. I know there's, I think Jebelali Primary School is very big on using Education City for homework. So they're doing I know they're doing an excellent job of that. Tests as well. So you've got mental maths tests, test A for year 6 on maths. And again, it's all generally to British standards, but I've found over all the curriculums I've taught that they're very similar. So Education City is definitely one that we would recommend. Here are some websites. We'll leave this one up for a bit because I know a lot of you...
Many of us have been given a wonderful list from Horizon, so thank you guys. But these are, many of them are matching. I looked at your list. So I think we don't want to patronise you. We can all recognise the great websites and we all use them. But this was just a few ones that we find particularly useful. I'd like to reiterate as well, when we're doing these interactive games on the whiteboards with the children, the other great thing is they often say to me, can we get one wrong because we want to see what happens? Again, so they get one wrong and their curiosity is then fulfilled and they know what's going to happen and then they try and get it right. But it's all part of that learning, you know, it's all part of getting things wrong, getting it right, why do we want to get it right, all the rest of it. Okay, so in conclusion, curriculum review of how we use technology. I hope we've shown you or given you or refreshed your ideas of how you can go back into your classrooms and use your technology that you have. Now, we all would love to have a little bit more in our schools, and we're always researching how we can develop this further. Personally, we would love more tablets across the schools available for more classes more often. Yes, we do use the iPads, but they're quite limited because we don't have masses of them. The whiteboards, we like ours, but it would be lovely to get smart boards, especially in early years where they can use their fingers and their hands to touch the boards and move the objects around.
Polyvision, I think, are available now in the UAE. That was one of the reasons we've got into Right, is because it's a local distributor. Smartboards were not locally distributed, and I know one of the problems our teachers have is the pen. Well, if that pen is broken. Polyvision board is touch sensitive, so you don't need a pen. You just collaborate it every morning, and you have got a working board for the entire day. So if your teachers are having problems with that, or you're thinking of purchasing one, I'm not being paid to advertise for them. I've got a Polyvision board, and I'm finding it a lot better because I haven't got issues with pens.
Promethean pods are also in some schools, and they link Promethean. It's a very good maker board, and they have the pods. All the children have a pod in their hand, and you can ask them mental warm-up questions, and they answer on their pod, and it's all logged on the whiteboard at the end. And again, I'm afraid we don't have pod envy, so you're not going to have pod envy from us.
Just to finalise, we've got some research. So some current research. I went to the 9th Annual Education Conference down in LA. I don't know if anyone else attended that, and they said that research is really important. I'm currently studying a master's, and I've finally seen how important it is. None of our curriculums would have been developed without the research done to find out what works and what doesn't work, and that's why we're all here. And so here I've got three pieces of research that I've had a look at. The top two are freely available on Google Scholar. The third one is not, but I do have a soft copy of it with me on my pen drive. If anyone would like that, they can leave me their email address or something and I can grab that. The top one is barriers to successful integration. If you've got problems in your school of getting other teachers who aren't necessarily ICT capable, who are not sure what's causing a block, that's a good one. The use of interactive whiteboard for creative teaching, creativity being a very hot topic at the moment. And I liked the last one because it's a case study of Mauritius. And obviously a lot of research goes on in the Western world. Mauritius is a much closer country and I think was very relatable. So you might find some good information in there in regards to how to integrate ICT into pre-primary. That one was definitely early years.
That's it. Any
Thanks very much.
questions?